to the director of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Mr. Ashok Pradhan, retired IAS, Professor Dr. Sashi Balaji, Dean of the Bhavan's Indology Center, Delhi, scholars, academicians, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start our program, it is customary in our scheme of things that we invoke the blessings of the divine, and we now have Nitish invoking the Saraswati Vandana. I now call upon Nitish to please recite the Saraswati Vandana, and then we proceed.
Okay.
Sarvebhyah Namo Namaha. Saraswati Vandana. Ya kundem tushar har dhavala, ya shubhra vastravrita, ya veena varadanda mandita kara, ya shweta padmasana, या ब्रह्माच्युत शंकर प्रभृतिभिर्देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा निःशेषजाड्यापहा. धन्यवाद.
Thank you, Nitish Di, for that wonderful rendering of the start of our program. This series of temple talks up to the month of May 2022 has been and will be spearheaded by Destination Heritage in association with Bhavan Center for Indology, Delhi. The series is conceptualized and curated by Dr. Geeta U. Badikilaya, the founder trustee of Destination Heritage. The entire gamut of what a temple symbolizes, from specific regional temple styles of the various regions, the cultural and social aspects of will be emphasized in these talks, reiterating our temples as great centers of our civilization. We hope to reconnect and kindle the interest of our youth with this scientific understanding of the temples in general in this series of 14 talks, which is also in commemorating the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Temples have been the center of our civilization and the nucleus of settlements, encompassing all the elements of the cosmos. They are a hub of economic, social, and cultural life to communities. The human body is compared to a temple, as it is said that God lives in the body on every human being. The temples reflect the pinnacle of glory in architecture, art, sculpture, music, and dance. The sacred groves and tanks emphasize the need to be one with nature and of a healthy interaction with nature. Besides, they have a lot of positive vibrations, enabling one to meditate and introspect. Sivasankar Babu is a techno-functional banker with 30 years in financial services, with a passion for mentoring and spreading heritage awareness. After 15 years in Indian Overseas Bank, he changed gears, having worked in the IT services in companies like Hexaware, Wipro, Capgemini for about 20 years. In the last 4 years, he is into domain consulting through his own company, Techno Bankers. He is a mentor for final year BE students for campus placement in leading institutions like SRM University, National Engineering College, Kovilpatti, St. Xavier's Catholic College, Nagarkoil. He also supports final year placement guidance for IIT Madras. He is a passionate, and I call an accidental historian, interested deeply in ancient temple architecture, commerce, epigraphy, and iconography, and is a member of the Tamil Heritage Trust, THT. He is one of the THT trained guides and handles heritage training for teachers. He is a much sought after scholar guide for trips to heritage locations that include sites like Bhubaneswar, Badami, Sanchi, Kanchi, Tanjavur, etc. He is regularly seen addressing in forums like Stapati Kala Parishad, Tirupati, IITTM Nellore, CCVA Vijayawada, University of Kerala, to name a few. He is an incredible India tourism facilitator from Government of India Ministry of Tourism. His YouTube channel, Babu for Heritage, is a go-to place for heritage information. He has completed certification in old scripts like Tamil Brahmi, Vattelettu, Grantham to read inscriptions, and he also holds a PG diploma in archaeology from International Institute of Tamil Studies, Chennai, and TNOU Chennai. Mr. Babu will be taking us on a virtual journey of the Kalinga region that is unique for history, art, and architecture of India. From the three basic styles of temple architecture, the Nagara, Dravida, and Vesara, the Kalingan temples have taken the best elements and created a dedicated style of its own, complete with their own manuals and treatises. From the 7th to the 13th century CE, the temple style has evolved from a simple Nagara phamsana structure to blossom to a navarratha four-part grand temple of KONARK. In this session, he will be giving us an overview of the architectural components, its major growth phases, and some of the key temples and its innovative additions. It will indeed be a listener's delight. So over to you, Mr. Sivasankar Babu. The forum is all yours for the next 1 hour, and all of us are eagerly all ears to listen to your take on these Odishan temples. A warm welcome to you, Mr. Sivasankar Babuji. So it's over to you. Mr. Sivasankar Babuji, is there any problem there?
I forgot to unmute the mic. Okay.
Please.
So thank you, Geeta Patalikia from Destination Heritage for giving me a chance to talk to about my passion in Odishan temples, and also thanking Bharati Vidyaban, Sasi Bala Madam, and others who have taken this great initiative to highlight about the temples of India, and then this should be reaching many of the students community. In Tamil Heritage Trust, we also do a similar program where I have trained around 100 plus teachers in Tamil Nadu about the heritage temple architecture and other things. And then these teachers are now starting heritage clubs and then teaching them what they have understood to the next level of students. So we hope to expand this kind of community. And I always welcome opportunities to talk about our heritage and then spread it into premier forum so that the amount and effort which we invest here will reach maximum coverage through Bharati Vidyaban and other August organizations. This is our hope. So with this perspective, I would like to start my presentation. Before starting, some some warning or some background information. I am not a scholar, okay? And whatever I have learned is in the last 5 years, whatever I have read through my books and some of the listening to the key people talking in web about the architecture. Even day before yesterday, the weekend, Saturday and Saturday, we had a great session for 2 days in ASA Hampi, and there was a great presentation by Kalingan temple architecture. That was really, I could learn a lot of new things on that. Like that, we are learning every day. What I am doing now is whatever I have understood, I am just spreading it to my peers and one level below, so that they can also come up fast up to the level, and then they can spread it to more people. That is the objective. So let me share the presentation. Uh, Geeta, you need to give me permission for sharing.
Please share. Please share. I think you have permission.
Yeah, I'll write now. Well, still it says that host disabled participant.
Okay.
You need to make me co-host.
Okay.
I'm a co-host now. Let me see. Now it is available.
Okay.
Cool. So what we are going to see today is an overview, an insight into Odishan temples. Odisha, explaining about Odishan temple architecture is a huge subject by the word, this one. So what we are going to cover here in 1 hour is the eagle sight, like how an eagle looks at Puri Jagannath temple down below and sees that, yes, I have 4 buildings and then 1 wall and then 5 surroundings. And I think so. By the end of this presentation, you will know what these 4 buildings are, what is the entrances, what is this one, and what is the components. That is that level. So it is not going into very, very details of what these components are, history or sculptures or the other aspects of the temple. So primarily I'm focusing only on the architectural elements of the Odishan temple. Otherwise, even this even the 90 minutes is not enough for this. So before the coverage of this thing will be overview into how the architectural styles evolved from 4th to 5th centuries and then stabilized, and how the Kalinga style branched off from Nagara and created its uniqueness, and also how it was continuously supported by the dynasties of Odisha from 6th century onward, who continuously supported the development. Nobody destroyed other dynasty temples. They actually added, and then supported, supplemented, they brought their own style. And when you talk about Kalinga style, what are the definition, what are the building components, and then the detailed definition, and how it started from a very small kind of a Nagara small temple and went into one of the grandest temples of India, to the KONARK. So how it was achieved and how it was able to sustain it in a short period of 400 to 500 years. And then what are the building materials they used for it. And at the end, we are going to see some of the iconic temples of each stage. Currently on the 4 stages, we will see some of the iconic temples of each stage and the key architectural changes or innovations that has happened for each of them. So that is the model. Before we start into the presentation, I would like to thank some of the things. As usual, I start with thanking Google Endeavor, who gives content and picture, whatever we search for, and Wikipedia Pujari, who does the nice collation. And what is more interesting is that the kind of references it gives, where we can check and find out whether this content is right or wrong. And a lot of images from Kevin Standage and other star photographers, where I am putting the recognition. And a lot of insight in the last 2 years from Sun Temple KONARK group. So there is a superb group by Kumar Arjodi and various other Odisha VP groups who have been very instrumental in giving out the knowledge, and some of this I have observed and then presented here. And if any factual mistakes are there, please come back to me. I will correct and then try to rectify that. And in terms of books, Temple Architecture by Adam Hardy, and the New Light on Sun Temple, where I started presenting on the KONARK. I learned a lot of Odisha related architecture in this book. And again, the great Thomas Donaldson, simple book of monumental legacy, and Ganga monarchs, and the grand Hindu temple art of Odisha. All these things, if you want, you can go in for detailed research. What gave me confidence to do this presentation was attending to various site seminars. We went into Odisha 4 years ago. And then at the time I prepared and did the presentation for KONARK, and then that spurred it into learning more about the Odishan temple architecture and try to understand the various aspects and how it is different from Dravida temple architecture. And also recently, we conducted one more Pechi Kacheri, but again, it is for Tamil audience, for the entire stretch of temple and other architecture and art and architecture of Odisha. So there also, it was a revisiting of the temples for me that also helped. So with this, we go into the actual presentation. So it may take around another 50 minutes from here, and maybe we will finish it around 7:15 kind of a time frame. Let us see. So if you see the earlier temples, most of them in the 6th, 7th, 8th centuries, we can fix into these 5 models, major models, where you have a spire top and the layered top square plan, and you have a square bottom and a amalaka kind of top, which is predominantly what was available in North India. And you have the apsidal form, which was somewhat available in middle and mostly the South Indian availability. And this kind of a rectangle or wagon top kind of thing, which is Kakradula and other things available in North India. And South also, most of the gopuras were like this. And the square plan with the polygon type of a shaped one, this is the normal predominant shape in South India in Dravida. So these shapes, when they started expanding into bigger and bigger temples, you can't make it bigger and then it will be looking very, very ugly. So it is like ornamentation. Like when you have a big jewel, you don't put only 5 components. You make so many small components, add them together and put it in a nice necklace. So from a small chain to a grand necklace, this is how it developed. So the phamsana type, instead of having simple layer, it started having multiple layers with the central replica, the central one extended, and then Bhumi Amalaka like that. So this is one way of bringing a bigger temple and putting so many layers so that this is a grand one. So this is phamsana. And instead of having a simple Amalaka, they added more and more structures like a banana, vertical stripes, vertical things, and that this is the Latina or the Reka kind of temples which expanded, added more columns and cliffs. The third variation is this expanded into multiple layers instead of having just a wagon top on top, which is like a bow formation of the earlier Chaitya temples. It had multiple layers, multiple extension, and expanded into Vallabhal temples. In South, this, instead of having just a cupola, it started adding more and more layers of small temples and expanded into the standard Dravida temple, which is like a pyramid. So this happened around 7th, 8th, 9th centuries, where the temples were little bigger and this one. So they have done one level up. The next level of aggregation is this phamsana, instead of being a 4-sided one, again it become 8-sided, 4, and then again this also bit into a slope cut. Suppose if we cut on 4 sides, and this becomes summer. Are you able to hear me? That I'm getting a heavy echo. Somebody is on 2 phones. Can you mute others, please? Okay, it is better now.
No, there is something wrong with somebody.
Yeah, Mastana Romani, can you mute your phone, please? Thank you. Now it is better.
Okay.
Okay. So when you cut a phamsana on 4 sides, you get a samavarna where you cut this side, you cut this side. So you get a 8-sided layer and then you have a different structure. So this is what is used for many of the mandabas in North Indian temples. Then instead of having one latina, they started adding more and more angashikaras or edicules on top of it. So that no, when it becomes bigger, it doesn't look like a big banana. It is like a collection of bananas cut and put together, and it is more like a fruit salad kind of stuff. So this is a shakeri plan where this is the next level of aggregation and making it bigger and taller. This is one way of stacking. The other way of stacking in the middle India happened to be on the Bhumija model, where they stacked small variations of small temples of this in the same size, like how they are doing in a Dravidian temple. They stacked it in a different way on the vertical format, and this is the Bhumija, which is typically found in central India. And then the other innovation is the vesara. Okay, the Karnataka, what they did is they wanted to try a round plan, which was achieved by rotating the square around the common axis in 7, 9 or something in rotations, where you get a stellate plan, where you have sharp edges, 90-degree sharp edges, and this is what is called the Vesara style stellate plan. And they also innovated with multiple sanctums connected together. So if you see this is a nutshell how the Indian temple forms evolved from a simple one cell kind of structure into a large temples by 7th, 9th centuries, and then went into complex temples by 11th, 12th, 13th centuries, and it is where it took the peak. Now, the question what you might be asking here is, where is the Kalinga thing happening? You see that Kalinga is a variation, which is a slightly minor, beautiful variation of this Latina, this Vallabhi and the phamsana, and that is where the Kalinga is coming up. We'll see some practical examples for the theoretical type of temples. Of course, for Dravida, the well-known picture is your great big temple in Tanjavur. And for Nagara, the earlier banana type of temples, Latina, and this is one of the Khajuraho temples, where this is all, this is horizontal stacking, this is vertical stacking going towards Amalaka. Here there is no Amalaka, only a cupola. Cupola of different shapes and sizes. Then the combination of these two is the stellate form of Vesara, which was predominantly the Hoysala style. Now, the Shekari is an aggregated style of Latina, where you have smaller ones stacked up one by one. Now you can see the stacking up style. The other style of stacking is miniatures of this Latina are stacked vertically and then with a central raga, which is a Bhumija style. These are all the topmost examples for each style. The Vallabhi is a wagon. This is like a temple Gopuram in South India, where it is a rectangular plan, and this is the best example for it. Phamsana, we saw earlier, where it is a pyramidical stepped down kind of a thing. This is one of the examples in Aleppo. So, this is the example for Samavarna. In Odisha, what they had done is they had taken this 3 components. This one, Pidadula, and then this is called as Reka, and then this is called as Kakra, and then this is called as a Pidadula. So these are the 3 forms which have been taken up in the Persian architecture style, and they have refined it in a slightly different way. Now you will see how these tea styles, Latina, Vallabhi, and phamsana, got transformed into Reka, Kakra, and Pida in later stages. Before that, let us see why we are talking so much about Kalinga architecture and why is it so unique. See, even though it has branched from Nagara and it is a substyle, it has evolved into a totally different style. Unlike other styles, it has got its own Vagama, Sastra, and other things by 14th, 15th century. Silpa Ratnakosa, Silpa Deepika, Silpa Prakasa, Silpa Sarini, all these things are there. And these are evolved by the time of 11th, 12th centuries. And we have got many of these available in palm leaves, and then we have got records, and we have now books available on Silpa Ratnakosha and others. They have developed their own lexicon with their own technical terms, which are different from the normal Dravida kind of lexicon. And if you see this, they have been evolving this style from 300 BC onwards. The continuous temple building has been happening with the support of various dynasties. The interesting thing is, unlike in North, where frequent invasion and others are happening, and whatever temples were destroyed, if you see the west and the north belt, that is a problem. Whereas here in Odisha, it is fairly at the edge and relatively protected, and they had strong dynasties who were protecting it, and it was well protected. So most of the temples which were developed are fairly stable. Not much was destroyed fully, unlike North. And if you see this profusion of temples, for example, if we take Bhubaneswar old town, the entire town is full of temples. And there are so many temples in the Puri Katak region. Every village has got a beautiful temple. And the interesting thing is, thank God, many of them have not been modernized, and which spoils the original heritage structure and other things. In fact, they are in the original form as it is, and we can trace live examples for all stages of development, except the very old brick temples which have been dilapidated or which has been uh, renovated or destroyed. So this is why, like a Dravida architecture, Kalinga architecture is also one of the famous branches where you have complete set of collection of temples, you have complete documentation, and then you have clearly defined technical terms, and then you have clearly defined stages and other things where there is a very good grammar available. On top of it, Kalinga architecture has got something unique. In KONARK, they have a complete documentation of a temple being built. 12 years documentation on how they started, how they built the team, and finally how they did the puja, and then final submission of accounts for 12 years. No other temple has got this kind of a thing. I have a separate presentation on how Konark was built, focusing only on these aspects. Just to highlight the point about Odisha being a temple state, just look at Bhubaneswar Old Town. Around Bindusagar, there is so much of temples. All the red dots are big temples, big temples. Okay. In a town center, normally there will be one big temple or a medium-sized temple which will be celebrated. Here, there is a continuous collection of big temples all around the place. This is one area. You come slightly outside, there is another collection. On other side, there is another collection. And you go to Puri Road, the entire roadway is full of temples. And this is why Odisha is such a joy. How is it possible? This has been continuously supported by Hindu dynasties till 16th centuries. During the time of Ashoka Maurya, slowly the Buddhism started flourishing in this one. And Karavala also supported to a certain extent other Jaina and other things. But this is the time where the cave temples were in peak. But All this supported in gaining the experience of handling rock, building sculptures, and then structuring them in a way to suit structural rock temples. And interestingly, for some time, Satavahana dynasty also supported this. And then by the time 550, Shailadbhavas and others started, lot of resurrection on the after Guptas, the Hindu kings started taking an upper hand. Lot of Hindu temples started building, and particularly Shaiva temples. So Shailadbhavas, and then in the 7th, 9th centuries, Bhomakaras, and this is the Tribhuvan Mahadevi was one great thing where she built the Vaital temple. And Somavanshis of the 9th to 12th centuries, Ayati started building the Lingaraja temple, renovated the temple, which was the old temple. And finally, the Eastern Gangas. For 3 centuries, they did a beautiful thing. And then they expanded all the temples to the biggest level possible, like at Lingaraja and then Puri by Anangabhima. And finally, not satisfied with expanding temples, Narasimha Deva wanted to do something unique. He started a fresh temple from ground up, and then he completed in 12 years. And this is KONARK temple. That is the ultimate in Orisian temple architecture. So this is how, over a period of around 700 years, with very good support and continuous expansion, the Orisian temples have grown into very big complexes by active support from the dynasties. And later on, this was supported by Gajapati kings who protected, who did the documentation, and Purushottama Deva did documentation of all the 4 temples. Only because of that, we now know how KONARK temple looks like. And the Purushottama Deva also did some amount of smaller temples. And then, but by the time the dynasty has shrunk, and whatever he could, he did it. Now the next part, now let us see what is Kalinga architecture and what way it is different from your typical nagara. This is how a typical Kalinga temple looks like. Forget the terms and other things, we will come to it later. Let us go slowly into this one by one. So this is basically a variation of nagara, and then they have taken some terms from vesara also. And the key point is the curve is curvilinear with pronounced curve near top Beki. Beki is this one. When you look at a normal North Indian temple, the curvature is smooth. Because this is not evident, but in a very later temples, it's very clear. It will go like this, and suddenly, at this point of time, the curve will be more pronounced, and then getting into a very small platform, and then very little Beki, and the Amalaga will be big, like the size of the temple at that point of time. That is the difference between the Kalinga temples and the North Indian temples. And Shikara divided into bhumis by placing. See, when you talk about the vertical, normally North Indian temples or Nagara temples are vertical alignment. Okay, this is rekas, vertical lines. Here, in addition to vertical lines, they also give horizontal lines by bhumis, layers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 bhumis or 5 layers. So each layer is a collection of the bows or what we call as kirtimukas and other things, and on top by an amalaka. This is like a small temple. So this is what is called one bhumi. So bhumi is delineated by bhumi amba on this karnamala. So you have 5 bhumis in the ganti. Ganti is the tower portion. Bada is the actual wall or the understructure portion. and Janga is the wall. The entire thing is Bada, and Pabaga is the foundation. So this is the specific terms which are being used in Persian architecture, which are different from the typical North Indian style. And like North Indian, it is austerer. There are no columns or pillars or pilasters for decoration in the main wall. It is the rekas continue all the way down and with some costumes, and then the sculptures are on top of the reka itself. So there are four components. One, Garbhagriha, the structure on top is called Dula, and then there are three mandavas for darshan, dance, and flow. And the walls are heavily ornamented with this kind of options called BHO. This is the small cow eye type of an ornamentation, which comes from the earlier Buddhist Chaita kind of motif. So the last point is the variation is the presence of Gajasimha in the Madhyaraga. In the Madhyaraga, in all the four things, in major ones, there will be a projection which will be showing a lion on top of an elephant. That is a unique point in a Kalinga architecture. Okay. Now, having seen the first level peak into Kalingan architecture, now we see about the first sanctum. The sanctum is a tower. So you have a main ground level wall, and then on top of it you have the tower, and then you have the amalaka. So this can have three shapes. One is called the Rekadura, which is typically a derivation of the North Indian Latina type of temples, where you have vertical lines and it goes up. Here you can see the Gajasimha. And this is called Vajramastaka, which is a kind of an Kirtimuga kind of an equivalent. So this is conical tower, and normally this kind of an Rekadura is used only for sanctums. Okay. Whenever you see this kind of an structure, Dula or a Reka Dula, you can assume that there is a deity inside. The next style is a derivative of a phamsana, where the state structured layer. What they had done is, instead of a kalasa on top of it, they have put an amalaka and then a kalasa, and then they have put it into layers. So it is a stacked tiers. Instead of having continuous tiers, it has been grouped into stacks, and then for each one there is a amalaka variation here. And the plan also, instead of being a simple square, they have extended into rekas on all the four sides, so that it is looking like a stellate plan. This design of a pyramidal roof is normally used for mandavas like Jagmoguna Natya. In very rare old cases and in very later temples, they couldn't go for this kind of complex one. Many of the later temples were of the Pisa format of tower. The third style of tower is the Kakradula, which is like many of you might be familiar with the Goburams of Tamil Nadu. This is exactly the same design. On the side you have a rectangular sanctum, and then you have a rectangular thing curving on four sides into three or more kalasas on top. So on two sides you have the bow kind of structure, and this is an ornamental one. So this is, whenever you see this kind of a tower, you can blindly say that this is a Shakti temple, only for female deities, for tantric ones. So a dula or a sanctum can be in three shapes: one vertical shape, and one pyramid shape, and another the wagon roof kind of one shape. So now you know how to identify a sanctum and what are the possible designs on it. Next one, mandavas. A well-developed Orison temple has got 4 parts. One is the Garbhagriha, which is called the Divula, and then 3 mandavas. For the next one connected is called Jagmogana. Next one is Natha Mandira, and next one is Bhoga Mandira. So this is used for people to stand in darshan. Nobody is allowed inside here. So people will be standing here and doing the darshan, or some of the Utsav Murtis will be coming here. This is dedicated for dance and other performance, and you can see more opening here so that whatever dance and function happening, people can watch it from outside. The next one is having only one entrance. This is for the puja and other offerings to the god, and then distribution of prasadams. In the later temples, they also added one Nisha temple, a smaller temple of the same deity behind it. In KONARK, they took it to the next level where they had 3 Nisha temples on all the 3 sides. So this is how a typical Orison complete temple will look like. Here, the rule is that the Garbhagriha will be normally Rekha or Kakara. In very late stages only, they'll be having the Pida kind of tower. Jagmogana always is Pida. And Natha Mandira and Bhoga Mandira is always Pida. So if you remember the 4 components and the roof type, you are very clear and you will be able to understand easily all the temples. Now, how it expanded from a very simple square type of Nagara temple into a complex one is like this. So when you have one simple square, it is Ekaratha, because on one side only one plane projection is there. When you project only the center on all the 3 sides, then it becomes 3 Ratha, whereas you have 3 planes. Only the central Rekha alone. So this is a 3 Ratha temple. When you also project one more, this projection also you project one more, then you have Pancharatha, Satratha, and by KONARK and other things, they have gone to Navarratha kind of complex temples. So for each projection, there is a name called Ragapaga, Anuragapaga, Kanikapaga, Anuragapaga, like that. Ragapaga is the central one. Like that, there are standard names and lexicons in Orissa architecture. So this is what it makes it different, with its own clear lexicon, its own clear definition. So we are not going into this. You just need to see the complexity of the temple, whether it is having 7 vertical parts or 5 vertical parts or 3, how much is the projection. That itself will give you the amount of complexity. So for people who want to always work around and then want to draw the components and fix it, these are the 2 pictures. First one is the Rekha Divula, where you have the Pabaga, the basement. The Janga part, the wall part, is split into 2 by the Bandhana, the bonding, or the Vedi. So you have upper Janga and Tala Janga, which is the lower Janga. And then there is a Baranda or Barandika, which is like again a Vedic kind of a component, which is like a beading. And after that, the main tower section is called Gandhi, which is typically consisting of multiple layers demarcated by a Bhumi Amalaka. So here in this scenario, it has got 10 Bhumis, because you got 10 Amalakas. This Beki is nothing but your neck. And there is an Amla, which is our head. And the Kapuri and the Kalasa, all these things is like your hairstyle. So this is how a temple can be visualized to a human and with the human form. So this terminology is slightly different from the normal North Indian terminology. Similarly, when you go to a Pida type of temple, you have the standard Pabaga, Janga, Bada, and other things. Gandhi, when it comes to this one, instead of Bhumi, they call it as Pidas. Pida is one layer where between one layer and other, there is a break. And you have Beki and you have Chanda. Here the variation is that the Amalaka will be not such bigger type. First we will have a dome and then we will have a Amala on top of Kapuri. And then we have a Kalasa and then we have a Sula. So this is how the components are written. This is for slightly advanced things. For now, we are at the beginner stage. For us, it's enough if we know the wall portion, foundation portion, the Gandhi or the superstructure portion, which is consisting of multiple layers, and you have the neck and you have the bulbous tower. So if you see this and see how this is different for different types of temples, then you will understand very easily the origin temple architecture. Now, having seen the components, now we are in a better position to see how the Kalingan architecture developed over a period from the 6th, 7th, 8th centuries to the 16th centuries, and then how it went into gradual decline on this. If I say this, so we are trying to classify that into a table in a easy, and otherwise this goes into a very big one. So we are seeing what is the period and who supported it, what are the kind of buildings available and other things. So if you, in the early phase, between 6th and 9th centuries, where Shailat Bhava and Bhaumakaras are ruling, the buildings are only Dula. Now you know what Dula is. This is Sankam. And Jagmogana, the next Darshan building. And interestingly, the Darshan building is a flat roof, and it didn't have the Spida kind of a pyramid tower. And when you talk about Vimana, it was only Ekratha, Treratha. Now you understand what a Ratha is. Ratha is the vertical component. So it is only one flat surface or with a small projection, which is a Treratha. Okay, so unless I explain this upfront, you won't be able to understand these nuances at this point of time. And then the feature, three-part bada, the entire, the body or the understructure is three-part, and then there is a Navagraha panel on the entrance, Dwara, which has got an interestingly, Kedu was missing. Kedu was neglected, only Navagragas were only 8. Okay, later on, somebody made a change and then Navagraha was included at a later point of time. So this is one good indicator for identifying a early phase temple. Navagraha, Ketu will be missing. The best form is Parameswara temple, which is the best example of a early phase temple, which was around 9th century. And if you want to see the other side, Satrughaneswara, Bharadeswara, Swarnajaleswara, there are many temples of the early phase in Karnataka. With this, in the next 2 years, it entered into a middle phase. This is where Bhaumakaras transition to Somavansis. Somavansis bring in their own expertise from North India, and they also bring a lot of variations. So this is the time where Dula is slowly getting a Jagmogana with a Pida kind of structure, and complexity increases. From Triratha, they would go into Pancharatha kind of Dulas, and erotic sculptures come in because probably the impact or the influence of Khajuraho nearby, or I don't know who influenced whom, Naganagi plasters, Vyalas, and finally Ketu arrives in Navagragas. So if you find Ketu there, at least you can clearly say it is middle phase or later. The best example is Mukteswara, and it's a small but beautiful temple. And you have other examples like Vedal temple, Sri Srivaswara temple, and others, which are of the middle phase. After that, in the next 3 centuries, it goes into a peak. Big temples. So far, all these temples are small, comfortable, and now they have learned the trick of how to handle the load, how to handle the stacking, and how to handle internal structure. Now the temples are big, and then becoming bigger and bigger. The earlier temples are around 60, 50. From 60, it goes to 100, 120, 180, and then it reaches a peak of 240 kind of a structure in by 13th century. So this is where the Somavansis slowly fade out, and the temple builders of Odisha, the great Gangas Kabir, they renovated all these are, if you see this, these are equivalent to the Cholas of Tamil Nadu, whereas the middle phase is equal to the Pallavas, where the artistic temples were there. In mature phase, they are big temples like Tanjore big temple and other things. The equivalent of the Chola phase here. Almost the timing and other things is almost same. So this is where big temples are done with the four buildings. Natha and Boga Mandabas are added. They add Vahana Stamba, and then they bring in Torana. And now they have 7 and 9 Ratha kind of Vimanas. The Gantis have, instead of a single Vimana, it starts adding Angasikaras, so smaller versions, so that the temple is bigger with a lot of small components. The best example for this is the Rajarani temple, which we'll see later. The other thing is the 5-part Bada. The Bada is split up into 5 parts with lower and upper Janga, and then there are subsidiary shrines which are in niches. The best examples are Lingaraja, Jagannatha, and KONARK, and there are other temples like Rajarani, which we are going to see. Finally, after this, slowly the control or the grandness of this slowly gets loosened, and then Vijayanagara takes over, and then the country goes into smaller components, and consolidation gradually reduces, and then Gajapati kings stop the rot for some time, and later on it goes into Marathas, and then Muslim occupation, and it deteriorates to a thing. So this is where most of the temples were sacked and then removed, but still some temples are built. This period temples can be visibly clearly seen as the Dula with very, very small size, and mostly they'll be the Pida type of Dulas, okay, not the complex complex Reka Dula kind of it. No major decorations, no plain walls. And a good example for this is the Kapileswara. So in a nutshell, this is how a beautiful development happens from a period of 8 centuries, from 6th century to 16th centuries or 14th century. This is how a small single cell kind of temples expanded into a great temple complexes. Now, having understood what started where and what are the things which were added on the side, now let us see how, one moment. How this temple transformation has taken place with actual pictures. So we'll see some of the notable temples and some unique temples and some different temples in the next 15-20 minutes. Before that, there is an interesting aspect. As part of the KONARK construction, there is a construction record called Bayasakada, and it is also talked about various stone blocks and then stones available for sourcing KONARK temple. So this is rough and porous stone called the Chitrakunta, and then a white stone without spots, mainly used for inner walls, and then Mankada, this is laterite, which is the main stone used for foundation. Maguni is the chloride, equivalent of local name of chloride, where they have multiple colors of chloride, white chloride, blue chloride, black, and other things, which are used for mainly the sculptures, because it is one of the strongest kind of a granite kind of an equivalent, and then it is very, very good, and then it gets a very good polish. Normally, the deities, particularly the Sun Temple deities, are made of chloride, and the ornamental walls. The door jambs are usually made of chloride because it allows very complex and minute arco. This is a rosy Remuna stone, but it is again sand and a brittle, various sandstones, coarse and then fine, reddish, and other things which are used for various functions. So They used a lot of different materials. Now let us see from the early temple. This is the Uttareshwara temple, which is located on northern banks of the Bindusakar. This is on the same side from the Anantabhasir. So this is Uttareshwara is one end, and the other end is the Lingaraja. This is a Bhaumakara king system. See the Jagmogana in some of the temples having flat roof, and Bhimeshwara is, and all these temples are very simple. Either only the Rekha Divilas or with a small Jagmogana in front. See, there is no clear identification of extension. This is just Latina only. So this is very early forms, and then no ornamentation, just stacking of stones of the size, and then we have AMRITHA, and then that's it. Now, over a period of 2 years, it slowly gets refined. More and more ornamentation is happening, and then now Triratha gets very clear definition, and then the Mukhamandapa is not there, but Sukhanasika, the front Sukhanasika part is coming out very prominently. The Vajra, it is called Vajra Mastaka. And what we see here is the Jagmogana or the prayer mandapa getting added. But again, you see it without, yeah, one moment. Sorry, my mouse is getting stuck. Give me a minute. I think it is back to normal. I'm sorry about the mouse play. So here you see that the Jagmogana is getting added. However, it is not with the Pida kind of a roof. It has got a sloped roof and that to a terraced roof with a gap in. And when we actually went there was a big yagna happening there, but still we couldn't feel the heat because all the smoke and heat was getting ventilated beautifully out of this terrace structure. And you have Amalaka, which is relatively small, and a lot of decorative motifs are there in between. This is the example of a early temple. The next phase, the middle phase, saw some beautiful temple. This is one of the best beautiful miniature temple of in a small space. They have carved so much. By now they have gotten the ratio well, so that it looks sharp and neat, and then all these ratios are in place, and then they have played around with the sculpturing like anything. It is a 10th century Somanshri temple, and this is the first one to have a pyramidal roof. And there's a later period Torana that was also added here with the beautiful ornamentation. And this entire wall is full of ornaments and full of nagas, motifs, woman riding lion, and then the jalakas are there. The jalakas are played around with monkeys and kids climbing vines, full of sculptures. This is where the architecture or temple architecture comes to a collection of sculptures. And then there is a lotus petal design in the top. And there is, interestingly, there is a lower wall around this temple, which is not even available in many of the other temples. So this is an unique example of a middle period. Another unique period, middle period temple is the Baitar Dul. It is the Betal Dul, or it is a Shakti temple of a Kali. So this is a Kakra Dula kind of a thing, where this is a rectangular sanctum and with a wagon top kind of a roof. So Chamundi is a ferocious deity along with Bhairav and Saptamatrikas inside. And you have a Jagamogana, which you can see it as a flat roof, like again, like the earlier ones we saw. with a tiered roof. And the interesting addition is, instead of being a simple corner, on all the four corners, they got a small Rekadura kind of a temple attached in this one. So this can be, in a way, termed as a Panchayatana temple also. The next one is also Kakradula. Now, by now, you will be able to identify the Kakradula temple, which is a rectangular temple. See how it is a Pancharatha temple where they have pushed the central one and the middle one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pancharatha kind of a temple. Okay, and with the nice structures and ornament. And again, the Jagmogana is two-tier with a flat roof. This is the hallmark of a middle period one. Then by 12th centuries, and they have got hold of how to make temples bigger and taller, like Cholas in Tamil Nadu. This is one of the tallest, unique, different temple attempted by Ananga Bhima Deva. So basically, they have found a shaft of a broken Ashokan pillar, and then this they have installed it as a Shivalinga, where it is starting from here and then it goes all the way up to here. So when you climb there, you climb to the first floor and then have darshan from it. So the linga is from here up to this period. There is a large shaft, and then people say that it is a broken Ashokan pillar and it has been adjusted as a linga. For this, they have built a beautiful structure. This is one of the rare Pida kind of a temple during mature phase, right? You might have noticed it by now. And then it is a Triratha kind of format. And then it has got a large pedestal, but a two-level bada. So once you start analyzing these aspects, the components of the Orisian temple architecture becomes easier to you. It requires a little practice, take notes, and then see the temples and then see the components, and it will be very easy to understand. Now, the next temple in the mature thing is the Rajarani temple. This is where the Dula is getting complex. So instead of having a simple Dula, okay, what they have added is they have added one small 1/4 temple, another bigger 1/4 temple, another bigger 1/4. So 3 layers of small temples they have added on all 4 sides, so that it is looking like a collection of small temples. This is the Shekari kind of form. This is first attempted here. And this is where a lot of love, it's called love temple because of the erotic sculptures and other things. And instead of Dwarapalas, they got a Nagastamba here. And the Jagmogana is also beautiful with a beautiful sloped roof of Jagmogana without any. Normally here it will have an Amalaka, here it is not having an Amalaka. That's a difference. And Navagraha has got Lakudisa on the middle. This is the Navagraha panel which you can see. The next one is a grand Brahmeswara temple, which is a very big complex built by Kola Devi and the Soman Singh. Again, it's a Panchayatana temple where you have the central temple, which is Rekadula, and you have 4 smaller temples, 1, 2, 3, 4, on 4 corners. So this is a Panchayatana temple with the Gajasimas. Now the Gajasimas becoming prominent in all over the place. And this is where it sports one of the completed Navagrahas in lintel, and the extensive use of this bow and Vajramastaka motifs all over the temple in the main rekas. So this is becoming, see the difference between the ornamentation of the main temple and the subsidiary temple, where it is flat stones, whereas here it has been ornamented to the hilt. The next is it is not a temple, it is a complex of supermarket of temples. The largest temple in Bhubaneswar, Lingaraja, and it is called, and also the tallest temples. And the first one to have 4 buildings. This is your Dula, and this is your Jagmogana, Natha Mandira, and Boka Mandira. Okay. And 50 plus mini shrines spread all over the world. Because this is one of the very bold and documented temples, and this has been there for ages from BCE and other things. People say that so many references are there. So it has been growing, and then it has been refurbished and rebuilt. And the final expansion was being Anagabhima, and prior to that, by Ganga Kings, they expanded it to the current form with all the 4 segments. So Ekamra has got references from 6th century itself. So this linga is one of the Lord of the Jyotirlingas, and Tribhuvaneswara it is called. That is why the name of the city is called Bhuvaneswar. And the Parvati temple, which is here, is added at a later point of time. And this is the major complex. The only sad part is I am giving you building plans because no photography is allowed inside the temple. But now we can fly, and there is a area from where you can take a photograph from outside. So one of the beautiful photographs by Kevin Sandage and others is at sunset, beautiful. Otherwise, during the day, your sun will be somewhere over here. There will be heavy glare. You won't be able to take the pictures. That is, I don't know, whoever has selected the spot has selected the wrong spot with no knowledge of photography, and then it is affecting us a lot. So this is the main temple, 1, 2, 3, 4 complexes, and this is the Ekamra temple. And there are so many subsidiary shrines around here. And now, tomorrow, it will be like this, Shivaratri. Tomorrow, it will be like this. This is the photo taken in Shivaratri 2021. And tomorrow, it will be like this. Full of crowd, and see the amount of people coming in organized queues and then setting up, and then amount of decoration. This is what it is going to be tomorrow. Beautiful picture, and then see the complex size. This is the actual temple, and this is outside, and this is the ground, and this is the way you form the queue and go inside. Now coming to the final and ultimate temple, the KONARK temple. Before that, you have one more temple, Puri Jagannath temple. This is again one of the greatest temples, almost on the same size. Like the slide somehow got missed out. We can take the picture which is available in this one. So again, this is the 4-part component, like how this temple is there, almost the same style, where the interesting part about Puri temple is that the flag there is getting changed daily in the evening, and people literally climb this, go all the way up, change the flag, and come back. And that is a huge celebration, and people wait to watch that, and the flags get a fancy place. And this is the ultimate temple where it has been consistently maintained. It has got its own temple documentation called Madala Panji, which gives a lot of historical and structural and religious information about what happened during all these years. And it has got the biggest kitchen. Now coming to KONARK, the ultimate #1 and the pinnacle of temple architecture in Odisha, where you see only the Pida here. Okay, this is what is Jagmogana. What you see is the grand Jagmona is only a small part of it. The actual temple is here on the begin, which is almost 1.5 times size. It will come up to this, which is damaged and then failed due to a structural one. How it got damaged and other things, there is a separate presentation in can. The variation here is that the Jagmogana is intact, and then we have 4 Nisa temples around this, and Jagmogana is directly connected, whereas the Nata Mandira is not connected to the Jagmogana. There is an open gap. And other variation is that the Bhoga Mandapa, it is totally destroyed. This is on the southeastern corner. And it has got the standard 4 entrances. This is the lion entrance, and this is the horse entrance, this is the elephant entrance, and this is the tiger entrance. And unlike a single Nisha temple, which we saw in the earlier Lingaraja temple, here we have 3 Nisha temples on all the 3 sides. And interestingly, like I said earlier, this is the only temple, as far as I know, in a bigger temple in India, which has got a complete documentation of its construction from day one till the consecration and handovering over of accounts. This is the ultimate temple which you should visit once and then enjoy the peak of KONARK. This was done by King Narasimha, who was one of the topmost kings in Odisha history, where he had almost the maximum reach and maximum coverage. And with his father, he also came all the way up to Kanjipuram and invaded Kanjipuram. And then, interestingly, the Ananga Bhimadeva has taken one Ganapati statue from Kanjipuram, and there it is displayed as the Kanjipuram Ganapati, like the Vadabi Ganapati which we have in Tamil Nadu. Now, Narasimha Deva's sisters, Ananga Bhima's daughter, built this temple. Her name is Chandrika, and then she built this temple little later than the KONARK temple. Again, this is the last complete temple with all the 4 components and a Nisha temple on the back. Interestingly, this is the only one Vaishnava temple, and it has got the biggest kitchen. If they see the extension and the roof here and all this firewood, this is for the kitchen. This entire south side of the temple is a kitchen complex. It's very difficult to walk there, but the food they prepare there is phenomenal and very tasty, and it's a different kind of an environment. That side is totally congested, and this side is beautiful, and this is the side where you can enjoy the later period temple architecture. Here you can see is Pancharatha, or it has got 7 projections. And the last of the grand temples. Beyond that, now we go to the later phase where Kapileshwara temple is there, and then this is a group of 34 temples built during Kapilendra Deva time. After seeing all these things, now you look at this temple, pathetic, but there is a state and that is how it is. Now you see the difference between the rekas, ornamentation and other things, horrible. But this is how gradually went into disuse. But till now, Odishan architecture has got a fame, a structure, a recognition. And even now, even today, very recently in Tamil Nadu, in Kanyakumrai, they have built an exact replica of Puri temple, complete with all the subsidiary temples. Before that, I want to show you one more variation of the temple, which was unique to Odisha and which was there in only 3 or 4 areas elsewhere. This is the Chausat temple. There is a 64 Yogini temple in a circular form with 64 smaller temples tagged in together and with no roof. So this is how it looks, each one in a niche and with the overhead and with a temple-like structure and a middle mandapa in which there is a later period Shivalinga. So this is what I was talking about, the modern day replication of Puri KONARK temple, just outskirts of Kanyakumari. Next time when you visit Kanyakumari, if you want to see the Puri kind of temples, go and visit it. This is a well-maintained, beautiful temple and exact replica. I can vouch for it because I have seen it, and then I have seen the components and other things. It was almost all the structural components are there. The location and the details are very well replicated, and is one of the best modern examples of how to replicate a Odisha period temple and then make it lively, colorful, and make it appetizing. Hindu, the Tamil, Bollywood, Hollywood kind of people, Tamil film studios, they were so excited about the temple. They have already taken one full movie around this temple, and have had made it very popular. And very soon, more and more movies should be taken here. So this is how a modern Orison temple architecture looks like in Tamil Nadu. With this, I conclude this content. If you want to have any connection or any details with me, you can connect me on these contacts, or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Babu for Heritage, and then see all the old temples, old documentation about KONARK and other temples and the Dravida temple architectures. Thank you. Thank you for patiently listening to me for more than 1 hour. Sorry, it took a little longer, but I think hope it is a bearable presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Babu. It was not a burden for us at all. It was so enlightening, illuminating, and we were enjoying the talk. So it could have gone on and on for further few more minutes, no problem at all. So before I conclude and present a vote of thanks, I request Mr. Ashok Pradhan, the director of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Delhi Kendra, to please say a few words. Hello? Hello?
अभी बोल रहा हूँ, एक सेकंड.
Please, Hanji.
I'm extremely happy to attend today's program and wonderful presentation by Sivasankar Babuji on temples of Odisha, basically. I must share with him and others that I am lucky to have seen many of the temples in Bhubaneswar and other parts of Odisha. So it reminds me of what I did, of course, years back. But visiting a temple to see the temple inside, the murti and others is one thing. But what he has said today is how it was constructed, what was this was detail, was not in my knowledge. I'm really delighted and happy to note many facts. And I'm thankful to Sivasankar Babuji for joining this lecture series, which has been basically organized by Destination Heritage. And I'm grateful to Dr. Geeta Badikalia ji, founder and trustee of the Destination Heritage of Bangalore, who is doing a wonderful work. I know about this organization, and I'm grateful to Dr. Geeta ji for what a wonderful work she is doing, for taking forward the cultural heritage of India. I feel very clearly that the temples in India were constructed when they were started their construction of the temples, because the Vedas and Puranas didn't have much of the talks about the temples. Temples came some people say the temples came when the foreign authorities started taking over India, and then just to keep the people associated with India's cultural heritage, and basically the philosophical aspect and spiritual aspect, the temples came up. And another aspect is that bhakti part in India's culture. And the bhakti aspect is much more applicable to the people who are not spiritually, or who are not, who don't believe only in Gyan, but in bhakti. And this is very important for India to have so many temples all over the country of different types and devoted to the various aspects of the gods who are part of the supreme God, that is Shiva, Vaishnav, Vishnu, and Ram, etc. The Krishna and Ram. But the point is that this particular organization, or I mean the series on the temples, is extremely important, because this is, those people are learning many things, as I have learned a lot today from the Odisha temples. And I am grateful to Dr. Geeta ji and also to Shashi Balaji, who have joined together and carrying it forward. And I finally again want to thank today's great speaker,
Thank you. I think we had
Hello.
a connection
There has been
issue.
some problem. Anyway, I'm thankful to all of you.
Yeah.
And I'll once again, on behalf of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan and my own, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing your experiences. Actually, this is an interesting insight, because
Sorry.
we also, yeah, we also do how to view your temple. There is, I usually conduct a series of 5 sessions on how to view a temple. This was people go there to see the deity, take the prasad, and then next focus is where to find the chapel. Okay, this is the sequence. Now to come out of the sequence and see the architectural beauty, sculptures, and other things, history, and our chronology, that is where we should be focusing on. And I also do this how to view the temple series, H2VAT, as a series of 5 things. And maybe as part of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan or at a later point of time, we can schedule something for it. It will be very useful for the teachers and also people who want to learn the first level about the temple series. Thank you for your input.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shiv Shankar ji. It was a great pleasure to listen to you. And there are a few comments and a few questions also from my side, because at Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, we have been working for preservation and promotion of our cultural heritage, and temples are the most important, and how sometimes at some places they are crumbling, some places they are being destroyed, some places they are neglected, and in some places there are not many people going there. So Bhakti is the main that has kept the tradition alive. And the royal support has been the most important for building these grand temples, as you have shown them, that how we developed from very simple architectural styles to very highly complicated and huge temples were built. My question is, maybe we can discuss it about all this later on, but my question is that so much has been built by the royal families, by especially the kings, but how many palaces are discovered from these areas is my question. So when we fixed this, the title of the series was that the sacred space for a secular world. So there was a question from somebody that secular, how you are using the word secular for this, because secular is a term which has changed the meaning. So we'll discuss it later on, how secular, the word has changed its meaning, when and how it was used before, and what was the original meaning in the Latin language, and how it has been used today in the in different spheres. So thank you very much. First of all, I would say that how you took us from a bird's eye view of different temple, not only the temple, but the regions, the areas, and so we could feel that how many and what kind of structures were there, what kind of plans were there, because without that we cannot understand the plan of a temple. If we go by photograph, it's all, we cannot make a, we cannot in one's mind we cannot make out what does it really mean. So
that's why I search a lot of effort. I take a lot of effort and try to get a bird's eye view kind of photos, which covers what 50 photographs can say. It can cover in one single photograph. It gives a
but then we go into detail as you took us. And as you told about the shikharas, first of all, there is a basic plan of any temple. That is the platform, the middle portion, and the shikhara. So it represents the three lokas, Bhur, Bhuva, and Swa.
Yeah.
And then we go up to the shikhara, and it is normally divided into 7. So this 7 represents the 7 lokas. So when we enter a temple, when we visit a temple, there is, why we go there? Because there is transcendence in life. So we move up and up and up. We transcend from the lowermost level to the highermost, the uppermost, and then we become one with the Paramatma, or whatever, Shiva, or whatever, Vishnu, whatever the main deity is there. So it's really enjoying for all of us. I hope the audience must have enjoyed that, how you gave very clearly with tables and with pictures that the unique features of Kalinga architecture. And it's very important to know that they wrote their own agamas and shastras up till 15th century.
After 15th century also it expanded. What we have as the original documentation started coming up by 15th. See, normally agamas and the shastras, as you know, it is transformed by word of mouth, by metered songs.
But it's great.
Only during sometimes it starts getting codified.
It's a great tradition that the manuscripts are still preserved. Because ancient manuscripts they have all decayed, and people have not preserved them well. Maybe, I don't know, there can be many reasons. So I'm not going into the detail. But I'm also interested in the clearly defined terms of temple architecture, because anything in a temple, any motif in a temple is symbolic. Each motif is symbolic. So what does it represent, and how and where it is put up? It's all very well planned, philosophically planned. And also, when they were constructing these temples, I'm amazed at the use of stone. What kind of stone, and from where they were bringing it? For example, you showed in KONARK, so many kinds of stone, different types of stones have been used. And
KONARK in beach. KONARK is in beach. There is no river nearby now. But the wonder is how they brought up all the stones. Like a big temple is in middle of a paddy plain in Tanjavur. So they brought it from 50 kilometers. That was an amazing thing. But if you look at KONARK, they brought it from 200 kilometers in the mountains through various waterways, and finally reaching through Chandrabhaga River, which was existing during 13th century.
It's amazing how much work was done, how much effort is there to bring those stones, and not only transportation, but also taking it up to the shikhara.
Yes.
Sometimes the kalashas are too huge and too heavy. How did they do it? It's another question, how elephants were used, how different,
correct.
how they were lifting it so high. So
The history says that Narasimhadeva planned this even during his prince days, where he was invading south and doing fighting when he was a Yuvaraja. The quarrying started when he was in Yuvaraja 6 years before the actual construction of the temple started. That is the amount of planning he has done.
yeah.
So there
And
is I have a separate presentation on
okay,
how KONARK was built. I will share it
okay,
details with you.
very good.
There is an English version available, which has been hosted in multiple forums. I will share that presentation.
Yeah, we look forward for another talk by you. So another interesting aspect point is that lions and elephants in the temples, outside, on the walls or outside the walls, they are in many temples I have seen. And so far as I know, that it represents the power of a king, because these kings, because in when there were wars, I'm not sure, I don't have any proof, but I've read somewhere that lions and elephants were used during wars. They were brought into the field of war, which was new to the invaders also. And it was difficult for them to face that situation when lions and elephants were fighting with each other.
Okay.
So I need some explanation about it if it is there.
Yeah,
So I think
the Gajasimha motive
yeah,
has got two things. One is the power of lion. So there is
yeah,
one philosophical one where the man is crushed by the earthly interest, like your elephant, and also by other motives by so that is one philosophical explanation. The other thing is that during that period, around 6th 7th centuries, slowly Odisha was coming out of the clutch of Buddhism into the imperial Hindu kings, who were having the lion as a symbol, and the elephant is normally associated with Buddha.
okay,
Okay, that is another representation. People say
okay,
that
can
this
be,
is an indirect
yeah,
inspiration. This is where consistently it has been a very focused motive, particularly in Orissa region as a Gajasimha. And if
yeah,
you go to Konark temple, Narasimha marketing is there all over the place.
yeah,
Narasimha, wherever he is,
yeah, yeah,
Narasimha Deva.
Narasimha. And
So we
another
can have
aspect is
multiple interpretation on this.
Tantrism is another aspect, because tantric philosophy developed in that area, and it was
Yes.
misinterpreted because people could not understand the siddhas, the philosophy of the siddhas. So it was difficult for them, so they misinterpreted it. And there is one book written on 84 siddhas, and the title of the book is Madman.
Hmm.
So they were, and there are yoginis also. You showed a
Yes.
temple of concert yoginis, na? So
Yeah, right.
how Vajravarahi is worshipped there. There is, you talked about one of the Chamunda temples. So there is one Chamunda temple in this thing, Himachal Pradesh also, and there also Vajravarahi is worshipped.
Yes.
Another
Correct.
important point that I would like to raise during this our session is that how we can do a comparative study with the Southeast Asian temples. Because the Ekaratha, the Tri Ratha, the 9 Rathas and 5 Rathas and all these things, and interior and exterior decorations of the temples, and repetition of the temple design as a motif on the shikharas, and all these things we find in many temples in Southeast Asia.
Yes.
So I would be highly thankful to you if you would like to join us for doing a comparative study, because I have been to many Southeast Asian countries and have studied and I have been studying these temples. So if we can do some detailed study of Southeast Asian temples with this with the Odishan temples, because Kalinga was an important port, and people
Yes.
were going from there to abroad and traveling to Southeast Asia. Maritime routes were very important for transmitting
Yes.
this knowledge. So how this knowledge has been transmitted from Kalinga, because Kalinga is has remained a great source of not only information but also inspiration and knowledge for many countries. Also, they had matrimonial alliances. The royal families had
Correct.
matrimonial alliances.
The
So we
same
have,
is true for Pallavas. Same is true for
yeah.
Pallavas.
So
And
Kalinga,
at the time, two major maritime powers were Pallavas and later
yeah,
on Cholas, along
Cholas.
with these two
Yeah.
pushed the temple architecture by as an extension of the trade to the entire Southeast Asia. And
Yes.
they had a lot of royal families who had marital ties, and then who followed the temples of Tamil Nadu and Odisha, and they developed their, like Odisha, they developed their own style. Basically, it may look like a Dravidian style temple, but the way they have made the components and the size and ratios are totally different. I think there is an interesting study. I would like to get connected with you and learn more things, and then
Yeah.
probably we can work it
Yeah,
together.
because there is a whole philosophy. If it is a Shaiv temple, then it is naturally it's based on Shaiv philosophy. So we have to connect with the philosophy and also science behind
Yeah.
it.
Correct.
So that because as you said, you are trying to transmit this knowledge from generation to generation. You have taught people, and now they are teaching others, and so it is very important that the knowledge is transmitted from
Sure.
generation to generation. And one point I would like to raise is the art of sculpting. Our forefathers had bequeathed such a huge heritage to us, and now how many good, really outstanding sculptors do we have? What kind of training schools do we have for sculptors? Because us being a sculptor is not a lucrative job, so people are not interested in that. So maybe we can get some funding from the various organizations or government to start training schools for sculptors. It's very important. People are becoming painters more than sculptors, because
Yeah.
it's very hard to learn. And but what we leave for the coming generations, that is very important. And
Shashi Balaji, see, in Japan, there is that old mother temple, Isa temple, which even today, every once in 12 years, the whole temple is dismantled, so that the Stapitis, they are able to recreate the same technique which was done so many years back. So that way they learn as to how the technique is repeated.
Repeated
okay,
by practice.
we can start doing some projects like this in Japan. There is so much of love and
Yes.
respect for India. I have been to many temples and many pilgrimage places in
Yeah.
Japan, and at one place I found there was a bench, a stone bench with a small stone inserted into the bench, and that stone was taken from India. So people
Yeah.
used to sit on that
Sit
stone
on this.
to get the punya.
The
So
feel.
there is so much.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
in Indonesia also, everywhere. So we have to do all this to find the glory of India.
Yeah.
How it faded is a different question. So we talk
Definitely.
more about fading of Indian culture than glory of Indian culture. It's so
Another
grand
point,
that no other country has it. So we have to preserve it. We have to, as you said, it is documented. And you showed one picture of the Shivaratri. It's really the faith of the people that has preserved all these traditions. So
another point, Shashi Balaji, see, like we said, there is a maritime trade from KONARK to the Southeast Asian countries. You were talking about some linkages. Even to
Yeah.
this day, there is that Bali Yatra, which I think in the month of September, October, November, the women there, in memory of their men having gone to those places, it is maritime trade or maritime whatever. Even this day, they remember that and leave those small, with the lamp inside into the waters.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Bali Yatra. So it's amazing that traditions are still alive, but people do not know the history.
Why this is being done? Only the ritual is done, but they don't understand why it is being done.
So maybe if they will feel proud of that, if they understand, if they are told about it. So there are things that you have done. It's wonderful, the work that you have done, but still we have so much to done. There's so much to be done. So thank you.
I will get your contact details, and probably I will schedule a conference call with you. We can take offline a lot of things, and then we can work out things. I'll also share the kind of activities we do as part of Tamil Heritage Trust, and then I will share the details also.
So we can start something at Bharti Vidya Bhavan also, some kind of this kind of activities, because I was planning long back, because in between we have this 2 years of pandemic period, but otherwise we have been planning many things, and our director is very passionate about building the Center of Indology. I just wanted to inform you that it's coming up in 2 lakh square feet. 6 floors of Center of Indology. So we are planning many things there. So he has established, he has founded this center, and we hope after once we come out of this pandemic period, we'll start constructing that. So there are many things in the pipeline, many projects. So we look forward for further collaborations, because it is the collective consciousness, it is the collective approach that brings fruits. So it's really, I think we are working individual levels or institutional levels, but if there is a collective approach, that is
we will try to do that.
Then it can have a better impact for the nation. It's not for you or for us or anybody. It's at the individual level. It is at the national and the global level. So there, when we tell the next generation about the glory of India, then they are proud Indians. After all, they have to travel now. Everybody is like a global citizen, and for education or for jobs or different purposes, they go abroad, they travel abroad. But the most important, they are well educated, they have very good characters, but I think if they are proud Indians also, they can live with their heads rising. So otherwise they feel, oh, we are Indians, so they are not proud Indians. So let's be together. Yeah, feel them proud. So thank you very much. Thank you. I thank the Destination.
Shashipalaji, can you please read the comments there? Some of them are very interesting. Let us spend another 2 more minutes, because
there seems to be some queries there where they want
just a minute.
If you read all of them.
Just a minute. Yeah. So start from the lowermost. Excellent, very enlightening, educative, informative, elaborative talk by the guest speaker about the temple architecture. Beautiful visuals.
This is by one Mr. Murthy VVS from Hyderabad.
There is one by Dr. Anita. We follow the Boita Bandhana and Bali Jatra rituals even today. So even in Bengal they have this. So Vande Mataram Vidvajano, this is by Prakash Jain. There is one by, what is, I can't read.
No, there was a query from
Biranchi Mishra. Why was the Natya Mantapa detached in Konark, and why there was no Boga Mantapa?
That is a mystery. Nobody knows. There is no documentation, and probably it might have been built a little later, or they deliberately wanted to have these things stand out. If you see this, earlier in Lingaraja and other things, all the 4 are connected in a row with direct passage in between. Whereas here, the Jagmogana and the Divula are connected, with an antrala in between. Whereas the Nata Mantapa is fairly at a distance, because they wanted to utilize all the 4 sides. If you connect it in line, only 2 sides will be visible. Here, all the 4 sides are visible. Probably that is the reason why they have shifted the Boga Mandapa to its natural location in southeast corner in the Agni corner. So that is a variation or the change they had done in KONARK, which I have not seen in any other temple.
Can I comment on the basis of my knowledge and comparing them with the Southeast Asian temples? Because
Sure.
in Southeast Asia, I have seen that they used to build temporary structures for Bhog Mandapa. So maybe here also, maybe there was a tradition of building whenever it is required. During huge ceremonies, when huge number of people gather, then they built this with this bamboo or thatch or something. No?
So
And
here,
then,
the Bhoga Mandapa, here what it means is the actual preparation kitchen and the place where it is offered to the god, not to the people.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a ceremonial one. There is a Bhoga Mandapa, and then its plan is there. If I see the presentation, it is there on the southeast one. It is a fairly extensive permanent structure, and going by the foundation, you can see that the size is almost equal to Nathamatira. That is the big structure. Only thing is it has been destroyed now. So normally with all the heat, normally the bricks will be little brittle compared to the other ones. Okay.
Right.
And then it is easy to destroy. And that would have been the first one to get destroyed.
Yeah. And one question was use of mortar for joining stones. No mortar is used there, no?
That's what they say, but there is a lot of mass that has grown in between, and that might have loosened the joints. And this is one of the primary reasons. Non-maintenance of the temple beyond 15th century is one of the reasons why it has failed. That is my view. Because similar bigger temples like Lingaraja and Puri were attacked, damaged, but still puja continued. They maintained the temple, and then they stand now. Only KONARK has fallen.
There was a magnet, huge magnet on the top of KONARK. Was it there?
No documentation at all. I think you should see that presentation once. I will share it with you.
Yeah, definitely.
And
because
that will answer a lot of your questions.
Lot of confusion has been created because of that magnet.
So much of confusion.
Yeah. Please make it clear when we give a talk on KONARK.
Sure. So there is a question from Sasikala Puru saying that excellent analysis. Thank you. Could you please also throw on light of Vastu system followed in the architecture? See, when you talk about architecture, they mix some amount of Vastu. There are two types of Vastus. One is Alaya Vastu and Graha Vastu. Okay. So for temple also there is a Vastu, Vastu Purusha, Vastu Mandala. The ground plan is based on Vastu Mandala, and then only they start building what deities and what location and what direction they should face is part of the Vastu. So it is integrated as part of, like it is like when you talk about physics, does it have calculus or mathematics in it? Mathematics in it. Unless you know mathematics, you won't be able to work out physics. That is the way it is.
Yeah. Okay. Any other question?
Anita, there are two things. Let me quickly go through this. One, Anita Sabha talking about, is there conducting any session on KONARK temples? I have done it several times, and it is available in my YouTube channel, Babu for Heritage. I will share this on the chat. You can subscribe to this channel, and there are versions of KONARK temple and other presentations. You can see that.
There is another question by Jadav Vijayaku. Excellent narration on the Odishan architecture. My one doubt is why in North Indian temples, including in Odishan architecture, the missing of Dhwaja Stamba, Vahana Mandapa.
No Balipida. Yeah. Interesting question. This is the South Indian concept of Agama. Okay. And then see, in South Indian temples, the Dhwaja Stamba is one part of Linga concept where it acts as a counterbalance between the Vimana. This is the philosophical answer. But this is a way of showing that there is a temple from a practical perspective. Okay. It is one of the tallest things. The Balipida is normally, it is not for offerings to the god. It is where you put all your bad thoughts on this Bali, make it as a Bali, and go with the pure heart into the temple. It is a symbolic Balipida. It is not for animal sacrifice, or it is not for giving alms to the god. Okay, so again, these are all symbolic stuff. This is where the Dwaja, Vahana Dwaja Stamba is present in very, very late temples in Tamil Nadu. Around 11th century, 12th centuries, they start coming there. Whereas around the same time, it is already available in KONARK, and the KONARK Dwaja Stamba or the Vahana Stamba at a later point around 16th century was moved. Now it is available in front of the Puri temple. What you see in Puri temple is not relating to Puri. It is the Konark's original Vahana Stamba.
Okay.
So northern architecture doesn't have walls, doesn't have gobra or the entrance towers. Okay. Some of the later the 12th, 13th centuries, they start giving the Torana arch. But whereas there is something unique in Tamil Nadu is the gobra structure and the Balipeda and Dwajastamba.
The shikharas and gopuras are to be studied in detail.
Yes, yes. I run a 1-week course on Dravida temple architecture, where I go through the complete definition like this on Dravida temple architecture and walk through the various dynasties.
Somebody has said, Anita, yeah, please share the movie, name of the movie that has been shot.
Yeah, I shared it. Kanyakumrai, that temple was so beautiful, and I was amazed to see a pure representation of the Puri temple in concrete form with the right structure in a remote place in Kanyakumari. Okay, and I wanted to highlight it, and I have posted in my Facebook and other thing. And then recently they have taken one movie around that temple. It is called Mukuti Amman. And I hope now many movies will be taken from there. Yeah, I will share the location later.
Yeah,
I have seen that. Because there were lots of Orisan people there. Why did that concept come in Kanyakumari?
See, there is an engineering college. The name of the engineering college is Puri Jagannath. Probably somebody from Odisha or Orisan, I think they have taken it. Okay, in the college campus, they have around 2-3 acres of land. And they have invested to build a temple. Rather than building a Ganpati temple and I think he said he will do a replica of Puri temple. That is grand thing. And then it has come out really well. Beautiful temple complex. And then they have faithfully represented all the, I think they have used some stapatis even though they are building concrete. Because the architectural components and the design sequence, everything is perfect. In Chennai and around the places, I have seen several Orisan temple replicas. But the moment you go with this kind of a presentation knowledge, you clearly say that the components are wrong or they are stacked in a different way. But that one is a perfect example for that. I will share the Google location for it and you can enjoy that.
Please, yeah. And as soon as the recording is available, we will share, put it on YouTube, and today's lecture also will be available.
Sure.
It will take some time, yes, but we'll do it. Any other question is there? Can you see, Gitaji?
No, nothing. We have covered everything.
So, yeah, I think we are thankful to all especially the audience and the organizers, both the institutions, the Destination Heritage and Bharati Vidya Bhavan. I'm thankful to Dr. Geeta Badikalaya for all her cooperation with a smile, no tension. And on the other side, our respected director, Sheshak Pradhanji is there, who is very supporting and who is passionate himself also to support all this. So we look forward and for the
look
next
forward to doing some more options to spread our heritage awareness.
Yeah, so maybe we can do something in Delhi also for heritage awareness, more what we are not doing.
Yeah,
because Delhi people are more westernized, na? So
correct.
We have to bring them back to the heritage, show them the glory.
Yeah, actually, we need to talk their language. Primarily, I don't use the technical language much, primarily because it will put them off.
It's good.
So to the people, I use their own structure language. I talk to architecture people or children. I talk about only squares, rectangles, banana, and then cornstalk, that kind of thing. That will convey the visual rather than trying to say Reka, Shikara, and other things.
So less complicated. Yeah, less complicated terms are used, it becomes more interesting and easy
Yes.
to understand for the common people.
Correct.
Because that
correct.
is for the technical terms are for people who are really
people.
working on that level.
That's where the
So
difference
thank you once
between
again.
yeah. That is where the difference between a presentation by a scholar and the presentation by a learner. This is where I talk from my learning perspective, and then I present it in a different language.
And
The other value proposition is I have been in IT industry for 40 years and doing marketing and presenting and selling things. I've been selling products. Now I moved to selling our heritage.
So it
that
makes
is the only difference.
it makes a whole lot of difference when you are not a scholar. You are not bound by the four. You are out of the box, and that is why
Correct.
you are able to relate to so many categories of people.
Yeah.
So all
Yeah,
the
that-
best,
that helps.
Mr. Sivasankar
you.
babu. It was
Thank
such a
you. Thank you
pleasure
very much.
having you on our joint platform.
Sure. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a nice day.
thank you, Mr. Sivasankar, Dr. Gita, Mr. Ashok Pradhanji, and the audience and the trustees of Destination Heritage. Thank you once again.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to meet you again.
Yeah, definitely. That will be a pleasure.
In the
Namaste.
Japanese way of saying namaste is sayonara, that we are leaving to meet again.
Yeah. Sayonara.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Look forward.